One of our, let's say, principles also for outdoor facilitation is connect before act. So we go in personal connection, we go in group connection, we go in connection with nature before we go into work. We have now a business that works, that we pay our rents from. So it was more like letting things happen and taking time actually. And this was also a big difference to all the projects I think that we did before. So it was like really, taking time for connection and not having like this fixed plan how our revenues should be in 1 year and how our business should be in 1 year. So date before you marry would be my advice, and connect before act.
I'll make it as a coach, light the spark inside, empower every soul to turn the tide. I'll make it as a coach, help others grow, changing lives with every story I know.
Welcome to the Making of a Coach, where we unpack how experienced coaches turned their passion into a profession. I'm Tobi, co-founder of MetaFox, and this is my conversation with the outdoor coaching collective WalkAboutYou and its two founders, Witali and Kamil. And while most of my guests here start their journey as a coach with a strong background in psychology and then grow into entrepreneurship, it was the opposite for my two guests today. Coming from careers as company founders, they were striving for simplicity and eventually started offering outdoor coaching with WalkAboutYou. Also on this episode, we reshuffled our usual order a bit. So before we unpack Vitali's and Kamil's early journeys, let's hop right into the shoes of a team that goes on an outdoor coaching experience with WalkAboutYou. Can you take me on a WalkAboutYou experience? Let's say I am part of this sales team with roughly 10 people from a medium-sized company. We have a very diverse team, having some young people, some older generation people, and there's also some transitions going on in the business as a whole. How would your experience look like?
Maybe I can start, and Kamil, you can follow with the second part. We just pick you up at your office. We would start quickly walking. Beforehand, we have sent this questionnaire Kamil mentioned, so we got a little bit. We would start walking and connect people who are not connected within the organization. There's older people, so we would already say, hey, talk to the person with who you are not that familiar too much, but just kind of go on an easy walk and talk. Like this, we would already mingle around and arrive. And then we would take you through a sequence of walk and talk questions. It's a little bit variable in terms of would you rather focus on connect before act, on the connection part between the team. We all want to derive a certain question. How do we form the organization? What could be a strategic vision of the organization? Within the sequence of the walk and talk questions, we would start opening questions to a certain topic which we would figure out beforehand. And there we would also, and that what Kamil said, also Theory U as an underlying approach, there we would guide you through the 4 levels of listening and talking within Theory U, where they call it like downloading, empathic listening and generative listening. We would play around with how deep you go into that topic. Then I pass over to Kamil.
Just to add something to what Vitali said, also different facilitator guides, as we call them, they have different approaches. So some of them, they have like printed out, visuals they take with you. Others have moderation cards where you write on. So basically, you can also use flip charts. You can bring whatever you want, what fits there. Everything is possible. And the part that Vitali described, which is more like the morning before breakfast, the focus here mainly is in connecting, building trust, building psychological safety. And sometimes this topic continues through the whole day. And sometimes then we go deeper into a topic that's important for the whole team. And this depends then on what we decided on together with the team. When there's breakfast time afterwards, for example, if we do something more on resilience, then we work a lot with outdoor solos or nature solos, where people go out to nature and have their time for themselves to sit somewhere and, for example, reflect on a question which could be with the focus on psychological safety. Find a place where you feel safe, stay there, and observe what happens around you, and ask this place aloud, what do I need to feel safe in this team? And then just listen to what answers come within you. Reflection exercises in collaboration with nature, for example. And then this is the whole topic of nature coaching. And then you bring the people together and share about that, listen, and come up with conclusions and sharings to this topic. Then, or we can do something like I told you before, like this nature modeling, like instead of using Lego Serious Play, use natural materials to, for example, build a model of the team and of the parts of the team and the relationships. And then we have reflection questions. Everybody reflects the model and then build the future with the team and what has to change there. And also maybe what are hard conflicts or truths that have to be told, right? So getting a little bit more here, also the emotional part of teamwork. And then, I mean, you can do everything. We did something on communication. We did something on feedback. You can do it while standing somewhere. You can do it while walking. If it's cold, you do more things in walking. You do appreciation rounds, appreciation showers, where you maybe start first of all appreciating the nature around you, which is easier than maybe appreciating people that you like, and then maybe appreciating colleagues or yourself, which gets harder depending on what type of person you are. So it's always like walking, standing. Also, we have the concept of the breathing group. So people go out, so you breathe out, and then they come together. Breathe in, and then you have a sharing of what happens there. So, but you can think of everything is possible at the second part. And the first part is quite often, as Witali mentioned, a lot about connection, a proper check-in, a proper time to get calm down, and then talking and walking with different levels of listening. Yeah. And then we have an end, which is also something we take time for, proper beginning, good middle, and the proper end. And sometimes we also ask for commitments for team members, so what they commit to, what little small change they want to bring into the team. Sometimes we have we also talk about rituals or initiatives the whole team can create around that, so that there is something they can take into the daily work life. And then we have either another seminar or we have this webinar where we collect and see what happened there. And from that, we move on. Yeah. That's, just to give a picture how it could be. And the second part of the day is more individualistic. The first part is often similar because it's about connecting.
And then in the first part, this is also where you provide content, as in, okay, you introduce people to this, okay, there's different levels to listening in order to also frame the experience and get them into this state of openness, connect before act. While then the second part is very experiential from all the examples you gave. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it really depends also on the audience. So I don't want to, put people into boxes, but there's certain types of organizations that are more like cognitive focus. And there sometimes, I mention a study or some studies, why this makes sense to make the path free of skeptical thoughts, and then explain a model up front. And sometimes you feel that the group is quite often, and then you go directly into the experience. And afterwards, you do a sharing and explain what happened there and why it happened. So depending on how we feel as facilitators, what feels good for us, what feels good for the group. Sometimes we knew the places, sometimes we don't. A basic teaching is handling uncertainty more than insight. This is a skill we all need in this world, right? I would say the high art of working outdoors is spontaneously using the things that outdoors gives you. For example, if there is a hill that goes a steep hill, the question fits better to the group, what's now really hard in your team, and talk about it until we're upstairs. So you feel it and talk about it. When you go up, you can talk about, okay, what's easy, what helps you to get off this hill. And sometimes animals come, sometimes other groups of people come, and sometimes you have the intuition and know how to build this in. And this can be very magical moments because you can't play them. We had a couple of times like musicians suddenly in the forest playing music, and they invited people just to listen to the music, and not following the plan that we have. On the other side, you can perfectly also do the same things that you do indoors, just outdoors, without actually talking about any of them, and nature does her work, in the background, and it still is different. These are extreme versions and variations of working outdoors, everything in between, of course.
Yeah, maybe to add also on Kamil, this is also what we try to bring to the people at our outdoor facilitation training program, kind of how to build your mindset that you are able to work with what is around you. What Kamil, for instance, said, we were in Hanover at the park. It's a very big park. We did an exercise on nature solo, and there was a guy playing the clarinet because he was hiding from everybody in the forest to play it. And then a huge group of an insurance company came there, and everybody was like sitting down at some spots, and there was this guy playing and really well. And this is so magical. You cannot prepare for that. It takes a certain mindset to build this in. Goosebumpy, actually, that you can work with that. And this indoor doesn't bring you that uncertainty or that playfulness. Yeah.
This was a short outdoor coaching experience with WalkAboutYou. Let's cycle back to the beginning of our conversation when I invited Witali and Kamil to pick a picture that represents their journey as coaches. And funny enough, out of the 52 deep pictures that I offered them to choose, both of them selected the same identical photo. The photo they chose to represent their journey is a photo of two doors, one blue, one red, that you can see on the cover of this episode as well as on video. Let's hear from Witali how he interpreted the photo.
Yeah, I have chosen the picture of two doors. Both are kind of with a tree, and that probably describes the journey well because I do two very different things. One is actually where I'm currently now. Is let's say an office job, but it's more culturally based. It doesn't have to do anything with outdoors. And that's my life as an entrepreneur and running a company with almost 80 people now. The other is the coaching thing where I started by joining programs and seminars. And then I thought, and I think something like this sometimes where I think like, oh, this is not that difficult. Maybe I can do it better. From there, I started growing into coaching. That's the other door, which are two different colors, two different sides of me.
Thanks. How about you, Kamil? I just clicked the button to change the photo, but we continue to see the photo that also Witali has chosen. How is that for you, Kamil? Is it also the two faces, or did you interpret this differently?
I'm surprised we have the same picture. I think you had 52 pictures and your tool is working correctly. We are connected through this cast also. For me, the doors symbolize similar topics. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm coming from the business background. I'm coming from product development, agile, new work, and all the stuff that's connected to this tech and startup world. And I, left this path and focus more on the human side and natural side of being, working, and living. The left door, the red door with the tree, symbolizes this new path, which is more alive right now with vivid colors, especially the green tree that's growing, and the red, which shows me that my energy is more going into this direction right now. And the right door, the blue door, for me, it's more an association with being cold a little bit and having not so much energy, at least on this picture. This is my old part about business model design and tech products, which is still important in my work, but not my main topic as a coach or facilitator anymore.
Mm-hmm. With WalkAboutYou, Witali and Kamil removed the seminar room or armchair from our usual coaching environment. Their personal journey was a story of reducing complexity. Witali started at an e-commerce business with extreme fast growth and then transitioned into the world of tech startups. With lots of funding, lots of people, lots of moving parts in the product and in the infrastructure. This made him long for simplicity. His next business, still known for today, started as a simple email newsletter that helps you find out which cultural event to attend in your city in Germany. It's called rausgegangen.de. Thanks a lot for this. And yeah, I think we already briefly mentioned it first time Witali and I spoke was in an entrepreneurs conference here in Cologne. So when you look at your making as a coach, at your journey as a coach, how did these entrepreneurial pathways influence your approach to WalkAboutYou?
Maybe also related to your story that you just told, how people are getting into coaching. I think there's also this other way where people scratch their own issues because they have a problem, they're going through change, they go to a coach or go to a retreat and then discover, okay, this is something valuable for many people. And this was it for me. When I left my company, I had time to go on retreats, do inner work, and I never brought in connection with that I can make a business out of that. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but it was not the point why I started to go on to this experience. And then I discovered a course called Search Inside Yourself, designed at Google in 2008 for tech people, from tech people. This connected both of my worlds. And then I thought, okay, it's really possible to bring your startup world and this inner development world together through this program. Real visioning and my thoughts came up and said, okay, you can connect that and it's so valuable for everybody. I wished I had this 5 years ago with lean startup and agile methodologies. Right now at WalkAboutYou, we are not like the ones that do coaching for many years, that have all the certificates, that, are the best experts in methodologies and have the best experiences, but we reach audiences others don't. This is part of the entrepreneurial DNA we have. We follow a slightly different approach from the book that you have in all the coaching seminars and how you become a coach. And I mean, I had been into this teaching work, consulting work a little bit longer than Witali, and Witali came in, and hopefully you will tell your story how you came to this nature work. Recently, I told Witali that I'm happy you're not a consultant or a facilitator as your main career, because this brings such a different perspective on the things we do. And I think this makes also WalkAboutYou different.
Yeah. Kamil, you came from the consultancy world. Then you discovered Search Inside Yourself, which brings mindfulness out of the esoteric context into this business context. And they do this really nicely. For me, also reading the Search Inside Yourself book was really transformational, but it really resonated with me coming from an engineering background, and how they put this into the business context and the benefits. Is that how you discovered mindfulness, or how was your first time meditating? How were these first steps for you in the mindfulness world?
Search Inside Yourself for me was like discovering a new story, and mindfulness and inner work. I had a spiritual perspective when I was younger. I remember reading a book from the Dalai Lama, and there was like a passage which described meditation, how you do meditation. And then I practiced it and it worked somehow. I don't know how old I was, maybe 16, 17. And when I was, leading my company, I used this meditation apps that came up at that time. And my partner did yoga and invited me to meditation classes with my teacher Jürgen, a regular Cologne guy, without any, too much overload. And then we went to Asia and Costa Rica, and then Search Inside Yourself came, and this is how it all connected together. But actually the first retreats or programs I took part in were more in this Buddhistic direction. The mindfulness foundation within Search Inside Yourself, without talking about it, because it's more based on neuroscience. But all these things have like thousands of years old traditions wherever you look: Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, natural religions, shamanism.
If I were to map your journey, you have the consultant business path and personal development mindfulness path in parallel with Search Inside Yourself and partnering with Witali for WalkAboutYou. You brought these two worlds together. Can you say that like that?
Yes. You can say it like that. During my first experiences, my more intense experiences on mindfulness and inner work, there was the inspiration I found for WalkAboutYou with Witali. We started to try out things.
Nice. Witali, let's bring it back to you. I would like to go back to your first years. At some point, you said, this is enough. I want to go on a walk. Can you take us back in time? How did this happen? What's the story of you going for a walk?
Yeah. It's been 5 years ago, but I'm saying it's for the last 7 years already. So it actually was 7 years already. And there I realized with the company, we went into a mode of doing things quite complicated. At some point, I realized we were working on this cultural space. We say we bring the wine to the people. This is what kind of a claim we use within Rausgegangen with the event discovery platform. And when I looked deep into myself, I realized that I don't want that much wine. I rather go for the water. And that's when I realized I have to do something differently. And I didn't know what, but probably what I also like about it, that I'm not thinking too long. I'm just taking the first spark and then just follow it. And I looked at the map within the museum here in Cologne, and on the map there was a line from one time in Norway to Porto to Portugal. And I just met my girlfriend a couple of months before. We are married now. I looked at her and said like, "Oh, let's do that walk from Trondheim to Porto." And she said like, "Oh yeah, why not?" And yeah, you don't have to tell me why not, because I'm taking it serious. And then I kind of convinced her, okay, let's do that. And then I started to leave the company gradually. She left her job. And after that spark of looking at the map about 8-9 months later, we started in Trondheim to walk to Porto. It was a longer journey.
How was that decision-making process? Leaving your job, which I think is something that probably many listeners, aspiring coaches can relate to, starting in a way, in this case, not even the self-employment, but actually just quitting this. Which kind of resistance did you meet, inner and outer, and how was that process?
First of all, I mean, it's a company I created. And it's also a little bit of, okay, kind of leaving that was not that easy in terms of kind of emotionally. However, and I see it now kind of looking back, I never left, kind of just took a longer break, kind of. And that I realized they're already, okay, if I want to return, I can return. They won't disappear. If I do the process well, kind of gradually, because mostly if you founded a company and leave, it doesn't go well with the partners. I realized by then by how much emotions and fire is involved into that kind of process. Also in terms of who's getting how much money and shares. It's not that easy. That took a while. I think I never took too much risk. I never said I'm going to leave my life. I just pushed the pause button for 5 months the first time and took it from there. The first 5 months, I thought I'm going to change my life and do everything differently. Then I came back, and it didn't last that long because I went back into my job. I did have quite a lot of energy at that time, but I didn't manage it well. And then after working for a couple of months, this tension of not finishing, I was like, okay, I have to get back on the road. That took only 2 months because I was alone. And I didn't like to do it alone. It was not easy to go through Sweden by myself. And there also because we are talking about WalkAboutYou and the first ideas of taking people on such a journey. And that's after coming back a couple of weeks later or months, I met Kamil and we talked about the journey through Sweden. We thought about why not kind of doing something with entrepreneurs, because that was our matching point. Why not walk with them through Sweden? That was the first bad idea we had.
Mm-hmm. So it was Kamil coming from innovation on one hand and mindfulness bubbles on the other, basically having that approach to personal development, and you this self-discovery through long hikes, meeting at this intersection of entrepreneurship. Out of that came the idea of taking entrepreneurs on personal development hikes. Can you summarize it like that, or how was that?
Perfectly summarized. And we always say like I was the guy walking for 1,000 kilometers and Kamil was the guy who was sitting and meditating and doing walking meditations for long hours. WalkAboutYou is the intersection of both worlds. And like we had now the same picture. I mean that the chance was less than 2%, right, of picking it. Somehow we have very often the same picture. Another explanation for sure, but somehow we did those kind of exercises sometimes, and we often end up with same pictures. So it was not surprising to me at all.
What do you think is the origin of this high alignment in you as a founder team?
I think culturally, we without being able to put it into words, but Kamil is coming from Poland, I'm coming from Russia. I think there is a little bit of a better understanding for the background in real world. It doesn't show up, but I think there is a little bit of a mutual understanding, and also on the other end, definitely that entrepreneurial journey. Even at the same places, we did something differently completely, but we were doing it from a co-working space within similar bubbles.
Mm-hmm. What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think our ways are interconnected. Also, like Vitaly, you mentioned before, the emotional process, how you left Hausgegangen. You remember one of our first meetings after I was also in that process with my company and you still with your company. And we are talking about how to get out there, how to stay connected with others. And yeah, I also can't explain it in words, but we had similar paths and intuitions, like with the pictures. It's more like an intuition thing and not a rational thing that's coming in there, because our approaches are sometimes differently. But I think even if they're different, we can understand them and leave the other their truth.
Sounds a bit like a soulmate kind of thing. I mean, of course, I'm asking this also with other coach entrepreneur partners in mind. Would you have any advice for them from your experience? The different backgrounds or the similar backgrounds aside, is there anything that you do on a regular basis to connect and keep that alignment?
So, yes, there are many things we do. One of our principles of auto facilitation is connect before act. We go in personal connection, we go in group connection, we go in connection with nature before we go into work. One special thing where our path crossed was really where we were both open and free and not in a hurry time. We didn't have the plan we have now to have a business that works, that we pay our rents from. So it was more like letting things happen and taking time actually. And this was also a big difference to all the projects I think that we did before. So it was like really, taking time for connection and not having like this fixed plan, how our revenues should be in 1 year and how our business should be in 1 year. And at some point you feel it's not working anymore, and that's fine. In our case, it worked together and felt good to go this way. So, date before you marry would be my advice, and connect before act.
Connect before act. Give it time and stay open. Awesome. Vitaly, anything to add?
I really like this date before marry thing. I haven't heard it from Kamil. This is what I said to my girlfriend when we started the walk. I said, if we're going to keep 100 days together, walking next to each other and sleeping in a tent, we should probably marry. That happened, and we have 2 kids now, so that worked. Date before marry. Actually, in entrepreneurial journeys, that is not very often. Sometimes you meet somebody and then you say like, you come, you don't date that long sometimes. And probably I leave it with that. We had quite a journey before we started WalkAboutYou. When we did our entrepreneurial walk, we went back on the same path where I walked before through Sweden. So because I was there already, and it was clear that this is rather a try, and there was nothing born at that time like the idea of creating the whole project out of that. There was the name, but more like a placeholder. We just did this first thing together, and there were no strings and risk attached, except we put 8 people in the wilderness in Sweden, which we have never done before, except me walking alone there. That was a little bit of risk, but they almost survived.
Yeah, so let's actually go back to these early beginnings of WalkAboutYou. How did you find these entrepreneurs that participated in your first experiences, and what did they pay you?
As far as I know, before we did the first paid walk, we had some smaller things here in the area with friends and colleagues, walking from Cologne to the Belgisches Land around the corner. But this was all experimental, and Vitaly did one, and then I joined one. So it was more like coming from your experience, Vitaly, doing the walks. And then we thought, okay, let's do something and take money for that. The plan came out to go to Sweden for this week for entrepreneurs and change makers. And we needed a name and a presentation. Me coming from the entrepreneurial world, from the consulting world, where I already sold programs and educational programs, used my skills there and put a PDF together. I don't know what the pricing was. Something like, I don't even put pay what you want or fixed pricing. Most of the people who actually came with us were good colleagues and friends. And they paid like for the costs, and then they give us something extra, and we had the price like maybe 1,002. So just for, for testing it out. I don't remember so well. Yes. And we found that the people mostly from our network, and then we did this, and now looking back, it was a huge complex program. We never from that point on did something similar. Shortly after that was 2019, Corona came. So we had to think differently with travels and large groups. But it showed us that we can earn money with that people liked it, that people that are in decision positions like it, and that we can do this together, and that we are working as a team with Corona and other small things. We got signals that makes sense to invest more, especially from companies inviting us out with their teams, going to the business to business part, which can then also, where you can make more money and build an organization on the financial side more sustainable.
So that means the very first steps were locally, kind of free walks with friends and family. Then you did this complex program. I see a pattern of stripping away complexity, because you never did such a complex program again.
Yeah, it was funny because I was used to work with groups, but I never did a hike, not even 2 days. And Vitaly was used to do hikes, but never work with groups for longer. So we added a wilderness guide to our group, not to make it too risky. This was a contact from Vitaly, so we had at least this part covered. But still, we were both overwhelmed with the part we didn't know. So I was really exhausted. And then I was thinking, okay, now I should also guide some exercises. And the people were also like wasted completely and couldn't barely walk. They didn't want to do any coaching exercises. The second day was really hard with backpacks, all the stuff there. And then we had a sharing circle at the fire. It was raining, cold. The question was, how are you doing? And, people broke out in tears and everything because there was no protection left anymore. And at the end, everything was good. And this is what our mantra, and it was always like that. But at some points, at least for me, and I think also for you, Vitaly, we had to reschedule and replan what we are doing there. So it was a huge personal development and team development exercise for ourselves at the end.
So what I hear is the team was you two, Vitaly coming more from the hiking perspective, Kamil more from the group facilitation perspective. Then you had sort of a logistics security guy so that everybody survives the Swedish wilderness. And then I guess what made this special for the participants were, on the one hand, putting this group of entrepreneurs together. I think just having this sort of group dynamics of like-minded people can already be powerful. And then this element of being outdoors and having this extreme physical experience that comes together. What else? You said it was just how are you, but what else in terms of facilitation approaches did you use?
I think we also had walks and talks with question cards that go beyond small talk to create connection, trust, psychological safety, and some meditations, also some yoga exercises. So a lot of small things, pairings. I don't remember what else because we stripped it down very much at the end. Not only the physical exercise was something that helped, it was the nature, right? And we were really remote. It was, I think, one day away from a bus station, city or road. So it was not like you're at the next corner in 1 hour. And it was beautiful nature. And it was raining and it was pure and it was raw, and this makes something with us. And this is also the core of WalkAboutYou. We all experience that, what it means to be in nature as human beings in a group, and how much it is a part of being human at the end, and how much it is a part of our evolutionary history as a species. And this also brought the connection, the folk, no handy, no screens, no smartphones, nothing there. And being part of nature was a big thing that worked in the background, even without us telling people this is working in the background.
This was sort of the pilot program for WalkAboutYou. Then you came back and people were happy and giving out recommendations. How did it continue from there?
I think people were exhausted. They were happy to be back. But this group actually stayed. I mean, this is all the people who were there. We have such a, now, I'm not saying close relationship, but no, there are friendships from people we didn't know before. And exactly that group kind of stayed. And then we had to realize, okay, this is way too difficult what we have tried there, also with our skill level. As Kamil said, we had interventions planned, but to be honest, we had no power to do any intervention except we have to finish it because it was raining the whole time. From there, we stripped a lot of complexity into our programs when we do them now, based on that experience. It was interesting. First of all, a very difficult experience, and then strip it down. We wanted to do similar things for a couple of days, but here close to Cologne. But those didn't work. First of all, because we didn't do good enough marketing, and then Corona came. We had to rethink it anyways. So we didn't have long time until Corona, and then we anyway had to rethink. But we tried similar stuff close to here, but it didn't work.
Yes, and Corona, just mentioning that, this also meant for us stripping it down even more. Because traveling, we had this advantage without us, doing this purposefully, that being outside was actually a good case in Corona times. So it's not a high risk to, catch the virus. So this was a value proposition we came up with then.
Yeah, I imagine it was amazing. Perfect timing, because for every coach and facilitator, Corona brought a massive change and was a huge disruption. It was like, okay, now everybody's going outside. We have been doing that anyway. So at this point in 2020, you had done the pilot project. The whole project was very important, close to your heart, but it wasn't an actual business for you. You didn't rely on it for income. How did that evolve to become an actual business?
Maybe I can jump in there because Kamil said it was not substantial. For me, it was actually quite difficult because I had the other company rausgegangen, cultural discovery thing, and no culture happened. So I had the company almost went bust at that time, and this is why I had to be there. We also did WalkAboutYou, and all the projects didn't work, so I had kind of both things that didn't work. So that time was stressful, to be honest. But on the other hand, before I lived in a tent for 5 months and spent 10 euros a day because that was my budget. 10 euros a day is 300 euro a month. So I was okay with very little. It was not too stressful in terms of financial self-sustaining it. How that evolved in terms of coming, it was for me also, I couldn't really tell to myself that this coaching aspect can be a project I can live from, because I never experienced that. Or I had never written substantial invoices for coaching, and I didn't know that you can do that. And I also told to Kamil, I cannot take money for walking with people because I want to do it anyway, so why should I take a lot of money? And he was the one who was trying to convince me, let's do it a little bit more business-like.
What we have here is not just a hobby, but a business.
Yeah, it can become one because there is a need, and there is this, companies are paying, and they also employ consultants who do strategic things. So why not work on a human level as well? I didn't know this world exists because I was always trying to sell kind of products for little money. And now this whole coaching world came into place.
Yeah, your acquisition strategy or your target groups are B2C. And then on top of that, I guess where you actually make the money is working with businesses. How did you arrive at this model? How did you acquire your first business customers?
The business customers came definitely from Kamil, who was actually more from the B2B world and had his contacts there. He was telling them, I'm now doing this new thing called WalkAboutYou. Do you want to try that? And as we did like walks where we just like where people could join, we got a lot of experience in doing that. Also realizing that it works in different constellations with different group size. And it gave us a lot of credibility because we have done already quite a lot of formats with end users. There, the connection didn't really work so well so far to, let's say, every end consumer or every end who's taking part in the open programs is also working somewhere. That connection to the B2B doesn't work well so far. We have both columns, actually.
Mhm. So you would say the B2C serves as experimentation and a practice ground to develop the program. And then I imagine also, you said to get credibility, to collect testimonials from happy clients. But let's dig into how did you get from organizing programs with friends, entrepreneurs, yes, but still friends and end consumers. How did that evolve into a profitable business with actual large business customers?
I think this is one of the most important questions if you want to build a business, especially in this coaching sphere. For us, it was more like an organic process, like we said. So we took our time, we experimented, did public programs with friends. Then they brought their friends, and I think most of them work somewhere or have their businesses. And then some of them came to us and asked, hey, do you do these things also for companies? Can I do something with a team? So this was one way approach, how it started with B2B and with, paying clients that pay enough that you can do something with that. And another one, especially for me, I was already working with organizations, already working on topics like leadership, like team development, just like yourself that I talked with you about. And people knew me and wanted to work with me. And then they asked me, what can we do with our team and our business unit? And then I always recommended we can go out there and we can do something outside. And I was convincing, I guess, and also then believed this is a good way to do. And then we had our first business customers. The first one was also a friend of mine who had a startup at that time. And he also likes to hike. I don't know if he was already on a public program, but at least he knew me. He loves nature. He's going hiking. And then he said, okay, let's do something with our team. Another one was a company I was working with where I was teaching other programs. And there also a person came and said, hey, can we do something with the team for better connection on values and all the things that you can do? And then I said, okay, let's do something outside. Let's be a day outdoors. And this is how the first not scalable acquisition channels were born. And from that on, I must say our most important acquisition channel is word of mouth. People love the experiences. They talked about it, posted about it on LinkedIn. And this is still something that we're gathering, all the LinkedIn posts where people tell others and their friends why they like it and why this is a good idea. And this is like possible through these great experiences, and not only through our work, but also through nature, being outside, the full package. We also tried things that others are doing. We focused at one day on LinkedIn. So we're posting there. We have a newsletter. We have content. We have tools that people can download where we gather their email addresses and they come into our whole marketing system, which is not perfectly automated and working seamlessly like it can. We know we have homework to do there, but it's enough for us to move on in our speed. And again, we are working in a network. All the people that are working with us have also other projects and other work. So it's not like we have to pay 10 or 20 people on the payroll. We can grow in the way we like to grow. This depends on our focus and all the things that we do. And there are so many opportunities. The question is, what is maybe our next big channel for systematic customer acquisition. We had also webinars. So we tried a lot of things, and now we're at the point where we can maybe double down on a channel initiative. But right now it's growing organically, and this is enough for this stage.
That also sounds a bit like that initially what you've been doing was a cross-selling exercise. You were working with businesses as an innovation consultant. They already knew you. They already liked you as a facilitator. And then you were saying, look, guys, I have this new product. We go outside. We work on you as a people. We work on your inner development. We work on your team. And there was already this trust established. Let's say this wasn't there. Let's say I'm a new coach starting out and I would like to start this move going into B2B acquisition. How did you do it back then, maybe with the Make It company? Any advice or learning points from this journey?
It was quite similar. We also had open programs, events, teachings, workshops, and people came there. I mean, it was more focused on B2B people, but they came there as an individual. And then they liked it and they booked programs for the company. This is the same happening with WalkAboutYou now. And our current public programs, we adapted them to more fit in for people in the work context. When we do inner development goals, it is more like a lot of coaches come there, a lot of people that work with organizations, and not so many private people that want to work on their skills on inner development, for example. The same case is we had last year, Witali, you did it with Astrid, a focus walk, which is about attention management, a public program. And there was also the focus, how to manage your attention at work and in life. So, having public formats that are targeting human beings as an individual, but being in the work context. And from that on, when people know you and they experience you, this is something that's so important for coaching, because it's always also about you as a person. In this context, you can get to know people instead of having a short workshop, a public workshop. This can also be a webinar. We had a webinar series, for example, a free one where we had half an hour at the morning, where also people could come and they could experience us and knew us as humans. And also from that, there was trust built and people approached us to do more. Yeah. So event as a lead generation channel is something that we did.
You call it public programs. I imagine this is webinars, Sunday outdoor experiences for individuals. And then I think what I sort of implicitly hear, but I think it's not a given, is that you also have a business offer. When you follow up with these people, you have a package that says this is something you can do with your team, with your company, and it costs X. How does that look like, business offering?
We don't have this explicit business offering publicly on our website yet. We're working on that with all the knowledge that we gathered in the last years. But what we do right now, telling the people that we do offerings for companies, for organizations, let's talk. And then we listen, we go to a first meeting, and then we listen and try to understand what is the problem, the challenge behind it. And then we offer something. And then, of course, we have our packages. So we don't have to develop everything from zero, but it's more like getting the first personal contact as fast. Listen, what's the challenge? Maybe from a half-hour meetings, my approach in the last year, listening 25 minutes and come up, we think we know what to do, we'll send you an offer. And then usually also regarding pricing, we have our official pricings with which we go in, and then we see how this evolves. Some organizations can pay that, and they don't even asking about the price. Others say that's too much, and then we can go in a conversation. So this also depends, but getting a lead and then as fast as possible, personal conversation, getting into contact, and then sending out an offer.
So there's an individual who attended your program. Afterwards, you talk about their business, listen, and send an offer. And that's always the same? Or how does that look like? Is that a PDF with bullet points and a price tag?
We have now a PDF. Also, let's say a PDF with the core program, let's say, benefits, value proposition, and also with a price tag, which is like without any big adaptations. And this is something we can send out pretty quick to give them an overview, and also to sometimes people want also to see something before they talk with you. then we also send them this PDF. But when we have enough information, we send an individual offer. So what we heard you say is, these are the challenges, this is our offer based on that. And then we go into the whole process of yes or no, or maybe, or how to adapt this, how to adapt that.
And an individual offer is then basically a PDF with a few more pages summarizing what you've heard, the current issue, and then saying, let's tackle this with that program.
Yeah, I like the term agile contract development. So it's like you get very quick a first draft, what you heard and what's the proposition and what can we do. Then you get the response from the client and get into a conversation. It's not assuming all the things in your mind that might be relevant and then you send it out and you do all the work and then the people say, no, I want something else. It's giving a quick first bite of something to taste and then to get into conversation, come up with something that both sides are fine with.
How much does it cost? If I say, okay, we are a medium-sized company, we want to do a program for our sales team, what's offer look like?
How many people?
We are 10 in the team.
10 people. Okay, depends. Let's say you want to go out one day, and our packages includes that we upfront send a questionnaire to your team, and then we will see what are the issues, what are the challenges. We collect some data. We would have another call with you as a team lead. Then we will come up with a purpose of this day, and then we do this day. And after the day, we have an online webinar where we get in and we try to integrate it into daily life of the team. That's not just to make it a one-day experience, but to integrate it somehow. And for this packages with 2 facilitators of us is 7,200 euro. And with these 2 facilitators of us, we can do it everywhere and we can come to your location, basically wherever you are, and do it there without additional costs.
What is your most important product? Is it the one day, as example, or longer retreats?
I think, Witali, we decided now that we like longer retreats, this offsites, like 2 or 3 days, or accompany a team for a longer time. So, for example, doing one day and then in half a year, another day, each quarter, a half day. This makes more sense for us and the team.
So that's what you enjoy and what people also enjoy. Is it your bestseller? Or if you look at the past year revenue, what did you sell?
Yeah, but actually, we talked about it a couple of days before. We have an Excel spreadsheet where we have everything. But currently, it's definitely this 1 day, half day, 3/4 day program, let's say, that Kamil mentioned, which we strip down depending on, do we do less, do we do only one person, or we go up in terms of it's getting a little bit more extended. But it's around that 1 day program, because I think it does take some time to learn about the concept of doing it outdoors. We do quite intense work with the people. There's quite a lot of emotions involved in that, and to generate trust. And after that, we can go into the longer relationship, because we do already have relationships with teams. They already last for like 1.5 years, where we can do longer programs. It's more interesting for the team because you can work on stuff. And for us, we get time to deep dive and follow up on topics. And for sure, also on the business perspective, it makes more sense.
Let's dive into the actual program and how it looks like and what methodologies you use in a minute. One thing I would still like to unpack is something that you told me about, Witali. So we were talking about the B2B relationship and how that offering evolves. We learned from Kamil that it's really important to understand the client situation, listen a lot. But in order to arrive at this first conversation with a potential business client, I learned you also run open programs where I, as an individual, come on a Sunday afternoon, and then it's also like a 2-hour thing or something. How do you advertise, and also how did you price that?
Yeah, actually, we started also with a 1 day open, very open topic program, because Kamil now mentioned we also try to make it more business relatiger. Before that, it was quite kind of more personal development for one day on a Sunday. But we realized that that didn't work well because we had a price tag like 150 euro per person, and then they say, 150 euro for a walk. I can just do it for free at the same spot because it was actually close to Cologne. And also that was really hard to advertise. The people were really happy who were doing that, but actually we always had the difficulty to get enough people to run that. At some point in time, and that was last year, we changed for doing it at the afternoon, only for 3 or 4 hours, maybe for 2 hours, but more like 3 for 4 hours, giving it a more B2B context, like inner development goals, outdoor experience, walk in nature, objective key results, focus walk, focusing on work and personal focus. And there we do paid forward formats, can join for free. Somebody before has already paid for them. So they know they come for free, but they have to pay kind of the next group. And then after the 3 or 4 hours of walking together, they receive an email and pay whatever they feel. We give a price range between 50 and 200 euros. So they kind of have a understanding where it can be. And there people sometimes pay more than 150 euro. I mean, now we do it kind of a little less time on a Thursday afternoon with kind of, and people start to pay more than we have done before for a full day. But we've changed the topic to a little bit more business related.
Mm-hmm. You started out asking for 150 euros for an afternoon experience, personal development focus. Now what you changed is on the one hand, giving it some sort of business related spin that people maybe can book that as work time or useful for my professional development in their minds. And you also change to a pay what you want model. And you say, you learn, okay, we actually arrive at more or less this price tag of 150 euros on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. How do you present it? Is it on the sign-up page, pay what you want? And do you explain this whole pay it forward, you pay the people who do the event after you, somebody else in the past has paid for you? When do you explain that story?
I have to say, there's a whole science and movement behind that. This is not like you can do it like that, pay what you want or pay what you feel, and they say it at the end and collect money in a box. That's, I think, the simplest way to do. It's more than that. I mean, first of all, it's accessible for everybody through that, not only for people that have money. This is also on purpose. The story we are using right now is this pay it forward story, different stories and different namings you can give this whole process that works always like the same. People decide how much they give, and pay it forward is more like, okay, the first workshop, we paid it forward as an organization and we invited all of you. And then after that, we're working on the topics of sustainability, regenerative transformation, how we can form our economies to better serving us as people and better serving the planet. And this is more like not thinking only about you, but also thinking about others, people, connecting to other groups, thinking into the future, not only your personal benefit. We are telling the people, okay, somebody paid for you. This is how it is. You can pay for others to have this experience. You're investing in this topic. You're investing in this education that wants to bring a better economy, a life, connection to nature, to ourselves. This is what you can do there. There are many stories you can tell. One of the quotes that I used recently is the story that in great societies, old people are planting trees. Under them, they won't sit themselves, for example, right? This is a quote that's going into this direction. And you're also bringing people, kind of connecting them to this product. So it's not, you take it, pay and go. You have to think about it. You think, how much is it worth to you? You're more involved. It's actually a coaching intervention to bring the price on the table. And it's more like a marketing tool, at least for us. This is also something we are now looking very extensively, how to handle money and money flows within the organization, outside the organization, and there's a whole world to discover. We just stepped in. It's a very, very interesting topic that, especially from the entrepreneurial world we came from before, is something that people didn't know and talked about it at all.
Sounds amazing. It reminds me a lot also of reinventing organizations that we previously mentioned, and how this exercise of thinking about myself as a client as part of a system where somebody else in the past has paid for me, I'm integrated in this network of participants, of you as an organization, and then also of the people coming after me. So I am put into this place in the world. I'm not an individual, but part of something bigger, which I'm sure makes a great story also for acquisition. And just again, becoming very practical about acquisition, do you tell that story?
We don't mention it in the communication channels like LinkedIn or something. We don't talk about it. And then on the landing page where you can register, it's mentioned there, and you can register for free. We also send out an email, a pre-email before the event, and there is also explained. And then the event itself, we take time for that. We try to take time. I really give people also when they're not paying immediately. When we have our flagship open program, outdoor facilitation training, we have a little ritual where people write down something on paper and put it in a box. It's really like, something very we take time for that. On smaller programs, we do it like that, but we tell a story. Last time I asked people to imagine a number that feels good into the whole context, and then to take it with you, or to send yourself a message or write yourself an email to have it in your mind when you receive the email in the next days, that you can put it.
So that means the sales part of this whole program actually happens after I have experienced the program, and after I, as a consumer, have gone through the experience, have tasted the product, and then the actual payment happens afterwards in a follow-up email, basically, where I pay online.
For the small programs, yes. And I would say the money part takes part at the end, but the sales part, the time investment and people coming there, this starts already in the beginning. But there we just want the time. Sometimes easier, yeah.
Also, probably just to mention, because I'm not sure if you know that, Tobi, but also on our, as Kamil said, on our flagship program, the outdoor facilitation, where, as Kamil said at the beginning, where we train coaches to use our own methodology. Mostly it's just who run indoor programs. And we do the same. So it's our flagship process. They pay the accommodation and the food. So everything we pay, they pay up front. But at the end, they actually decide what they give us as facilitators for the whole program. It's quite risky for us because we cannot calculate before. However, we are covered on our costs, not on our time. And we invest, especially Kamil invests a lot of time into the program. And then actually the outcome comes at the end after they have experienced the whole program. In my view, it works quite well, actually. I mean, they do acknowledge it.
Interesting. Now we're opening the third box. We started with the B2B company team development, so to say, programs where you said, okay, like for 7K, I can get a 1-day experience for my team, for my company. Then we have the pay it forward model for individuals. And now you're mentioning the flagship program, training coaches on outdoor facilitation. How did you end up with this target group?
As far as I remember, we took part in a workshop. So we are doing that regularly. And it was the Theory U Basics workshop in Berlin 2 or 3 years ago. Theory U is a framework we use in our methodologies. And there was this exercise of mapping our organization, looking into the future and creating a model of the future of our organization. And there was this kind of initiative, one point that can bring us further. And I think on our last offsite 3 or 4 months ago, we also said, okay, that this is one of our main focuses for creating the impact we want, making working outdoors as normal as online and indoors. It's our biggest impact group because they're multiplicators. And on the other side, people invest in their career and their business, and they have new opportunities with clients, so they can earn money with that. They invest money and really want to do it. They're not like in some teams, you have people they're dragged through this program, and this is people want to do it and they're already passionate about that. This is also a great work with people like that and spending time with them.
It's great working with coaches. I also love that. And if we look at WalkAboutYou as a business, what role, if you want to disclose some numbers, that would be appreciated. I think we talk way too little about money in this industry. What role in the maybe acquisition, but also in the business revenue part, do the B2C and consumer programs play versus the business part versus the coach training part?
Because I did that numbers, 1/4 is the outdoor facilitation programs, 2/4 is the business related context. So it's the bigger part. So it's actually 50%. So it's 50% the business, 25% the outdoor facilitation training, and around 25, a little bit less percent, the open programs, where we also have stuff included like our tools for walk and talks. We have cards called walk and talking cards, which are just regular cards with questions, but smaller. We sell them through our website. Stuff like this is also included.
Mm. Okay, nice. Yeah, it's surprising. I would have expected the business to have a bigger share, but you're saying half is B2B and 1/4 is individuals, and the trainer programs also 25%.
Yes, for the train the trainer program, we just had one program that brought us, so one extended weekend, and brought us this revenue. We're trying to make more next year, so we're expecting it to grow.
Mhm.
We are more organized as a network, so we have projects, and who works on the projects get paid for the projects, and then we have a part that goes into the organization for common costs that are there, and everybody that works has also other projects and other work. This is how we are organized, and maybe next year, who knows, somebody to get fixed employed. We're experimenting with all of that. So also WalkAboutYou, we see it more like an organism that's living. That's for us an experimentation field in organizational development. We can then take this to our clients and show them the things that we actually also did for ourselves. And we will see. And there are some voices that say, hey, we want to have this as our main financial income. And there's some voices we want to keep it more free and experimental. All directions are possible. And the question is, what we will decide for and what also feedback we get from the market.
Yeah, that could be another rabbit hole to dive in. But I think rain coming in the middle of a podcast episode. And I think, I can relate as a facilitator, staying flexible and not clinging too tightly to your agenda that you so nicely thought through and that you put in a lot of work. It's also something I have developed relatively late, I would say, in my facilitator life, and for sure still am developing. So I'm wondering, now that you also added this third column of train the trainer, train the coach education on top of the end consumer and B2B business, what do you train coaches on when it comes to outdoor facilitation?
I have to say mostly principles. Let people experience principles that are helping us to work outdoors, and then show them exercises or models that are fitting to these principles, and then let them try out things by themselves so they have trust and courage to do their first experiments. And be just something like pay what you want with friends in your park, which we recommend to start with, or do a check-in round in your workshop outdoors, or check out outdoors, or walk and talk intervention. And like this year, we are still on the way, but we figured out the principles most important for our work. One of them is we are nature. Nature is not a tool that we are using. This is a living organism, and we're part of that. And this already changed a lot. You don't have to tell it your clients. You don't have to tell it the groups. But if you're somehow connected to your environment, it will help you to feel better and to work with it. And another one is connect before act, which we mentioned a lot, which is one of these principles. And also what Witali said, maybe right now with the uncertainty, go with the flow, right? So this principles. And we are happy on our trainings when there is bad weather and not nice conditions. It happens that we do these trainings in fall or next year in spring, where the weather is not so constant, to let people experience that it also works when it's not perfect weather condition, and to have the trust to just try it.
So a lot of experiencing if I do the train the trainer Walk About You.
Yeah, we have a big handout with studies, so you can have all the information, but this is not the focus of this program. Maybe we will extend it someday and there are more theory parts, but the most important is to experience it and facilitate exercises yourself to be more familiar with that.
Yeah, I love it. So again, we have this repeating pattern of stripping away complexity and making things as simple as they can be. I expected us to talk more about theory today because you have all these nice theories referenced on your website and in your material. Inner development goals, theory you, search inside yourself, reinventing organizations. If you were to pick one out of these, what is important to your work or maybe also to you as a coach in your personal development, and how did it shape you?
Maybe, yeah. For me, actually, it was a little mind shifting. When Corona was there, we had planned some programs, but we had to all of them kind of to cancel. So I had time, participated in the Theory U online course. And for me, it shaped out that there are quite a lot of people interested in this kind of stuff. And they put it quite nicely into words, and they have these different tools. For me, it was important not to listen and teach them. At that time, I was already working in my office job at Rausgegangen. Every evening, I heard something, and the next day, I kind of smuggled it in and used it in a meeting or in an online format or whatever. That was important for me to realize those tools worked. Social presencing theater, I used it for real problems. It does work. I know for many people it doesn't. I like that it has different approaches. And now we're jumping a little bit on inner development goals because it does also provide a quite nice communication framework. But for me, the practical part was the review.
Mm-hmm. Let's dive a bit deeper into what is presencing and how do you use it?
Presencing is fundamental of what I've explained before in terms of when we are outdoors and not being able to control everything in terms of whether path sometimes we even don't know where we're walking. I mean, I do have a feeling kind of, but I've never walked that path before because now we go to Stuttgart. I've never been there before. And at that point, being able to read the group and what is important right now, this is kind of the sensing part from the present moment. And that's what WalkAboutYou, that what we try to do quite intensively.
So being in the here and now, being open to what happens and working with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kamil, would you like to add, or should we unbox another concept?
All the concepts on the website and others attached to them have a similar core. It's a lot about not only using the rational part of our human body, it's also using our intuition, emotions, and being connected with the present moment and having control of our attention, not control in the sense of being strict, more the control of using our mind for our purposes and not being used by our mind for the mind's purposes. So I like the theory U, how it describes itself, awareness-based system change, a combination of inner work, right? Using this for changing something. This is also the same for inner development goals. It's like 23 qualities and skills that are helping us to do sustainable transformation. It's about qualities and skills to change something in the outer world that makes sense and solve the big crisis that we have. Search Inside Yourself is also quite similar. Focus more on mindfulness, emotional intelligence, backed on with neuroscience and more coming from the tech world with a different story. But it's also about, the founder, his main purpose was to create world peace by providing business success and inner peace. Frederick Laloux with reinventing organizations, it's also being more focused on the purpose on the next levels and acting more from the moment and not being in this spiral dynamics, lower levels, at least trapped, right? It's about being connected to the whole, being present and doing something good for you, society, and the world. I came from Search and Set Yourself from my education background. Right now, I'm looking at the inner development goals because there's a large momentum, it's a large community, and it is an umbrella for a lot of other things. So also Theory U and Otto Sharma, they are talking with the IDG guys. SIY, Search and Set Yourself, was an umbrella holding a lot. This is how I see it, and this is where I'm now, where I'm coming from and where I'm going in terms of models and trends. We like to tell different stories for different audiences to work with us, but the core is always the same. Yeah.
Thanks. I will definitely look more into the inner development goals. That sounds like a really nice concept, connecting the inside out approaches, and you are part of a bigger whole, which I really like and are what we need right now in this world. And I think, yeah, you also wrapped it up really nicely. I would like to ask one more question to make things actionable. I'm an aspiring or maybe an experienced coach. I listened to this episode. I liked you guys, and now I want to get trained or train myself as an outdoor facilitator, possibly even work with you. How would that look? Where do I start?
I think there are two approaches. First, if you don't want to invest that much time, just participate at one of our open programs. One will be in January, the next one. So there is like kind of easy, no strings attached, 3 hours, pay it forward principle in Cologne. We would love to do it in more cities because that is, and because you ask how to be able to work with us and to guide people through this open formats within your region. You realize we need people who are also able to kind of create a momentum with other people, because it's a lot about marketing as well and hustling. It doesn't just work by clicking. You have to tell them that the thing is there. The second part is within the OFT program happening in April. I mean, this is 4 days, Thursday to Sunday, and you basically also pay forward. You pay the fixed price before, and you can apply on our website. Probably you will be there.
Yes, you can always write us and get in a conversation. So we're very approachable, and join us on LinkedIn.
Let's say I'm a coach who wants to kick off the WalkAboutYou movement in France, the UK, southern Germany. How would the early days look?
So basically, you're starting with your network and the people you know. And so this is the approach. And you're telling them from your heart why you're doing this, to purpose, why are you believing in that, and communicating through the channels that you have, whatever they are. It can be social media, email, WhatsApp, messengers. And then you will see if they come, who comes there. If there are not enough people, you have to postpone that, and then you have to experiment and find your way for your audience and for your type of person you are, how you want to bring your message and invitations into the world. This can be a long process. I think I've wrote to almost all my connections a personal email in the last years, or LinkedIn message, and sometimes more than one. And sometimes I had this feeling, okay, I'm here the spammer. And then people start to come that are not in your network, hopefully. And then it can generate a flow that's not dependent so much on yourself. But there is not this one way for that. Of course, we are supporting, putting this in our channels, but this is not right. Finding your sweet spot, your way. Marketing, sales, lead generation is one of the biggest bottlenecks, at least if you're not like the super expert in your field that everybody is trying to hire. But through this little formats, which are good, accessible, you can become an expert, and then it gets easier. We have at least a little brand that stands for something, and people know us in our bubble. This helps, but it took 4 years, or what it was, 5 years, 4 years.
Yeah, And that's a very nice closing words. Thank you. The only way to do it is to do it. Walk the talk.
Einfach losgehen.
Einfach losgehen. Just start walking. Nice. This was my conversation with Witali and Kamil from WalkAboutYou. If you want to get in touch, train as an outdoor coach, or learn about the concepts that we touched upon, check the links in our show notes, and see you next time on The Making of a Coach.